All right, hey guys, we're going to go ahead and look at Unit 3, Note 6 today. We're going to look at graphing those quadratics that we've been solving. We're going to look at it in a couple different forms. So today we're going to focus mainly on vertex form. So basically what you're seeing here, this f of x equals a times x minus h squared plus k, that's my vertex form, okay? Basically, I can find a bunch of points or these key points that I want in order to graph this equation or this quadratic by following some specific steps and looking at the information that's given to me. So the first thing that this is going to help me do is determining if this parabola opens up or if it opens down. In order to figure that out, you're going to look at the a value. Okay, if a is greater than 0, so any number greater than 0, a cannot equal 0. If a is greater than 0, this parabola is going to open up. It's going to give you that U shape. Okay, if a is less than 0, so any negative number, it's going to open down, or kind of this N shape, okay? So that's the first thing you always want to determine. Does it open up or open down? That's going to help us determine our shape. The second thing you're going to look for then is the vertex. Now, remember when we did transformations and we said if it's inside, it lies to you. If it's outside, it tells you the truth. This is going to be very similar for the vertex, okay? The inside of it, this says negative h, but your vertex is actually a positive h. So the inside lies, it's the opposite. The outside is exactly what you would say. It's a positive k, it's a positive k. So that's going to give us point number 1, our first key point that we want, our vertex, okay? That vertex is basically either the maximum or the minimum. It's the high point or the low point of that parabola. Just depends on if it opens up or opens down. So basically whatever our a is telling us. Once you find that vertex, you're going to go ahead, you're going to look for your x-intercepts. So your x-intercepts are the point where it crosses your x-axis. Remember when we have that situation happening, our y values are always 0. So it's going to be something comma 0. To find this, you're going to go ahead and you're going to set the y or the f of x equal to 0. So this is going to turn to 0. And then you're going to solve using your square root property. Okay, so we practice doing that. You're going to solve using that. That's going to give you usually 2 key points. So you're going to get 2 x-intercepts. Okay, it could be 1, it could be none. We'll kind of look at that situation, but usually 2. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to find the y-intercepts. Okay, the y-intercept, remember, is when your x is 0. So that's where you're going to plug 0 in for your x value and basically solve for the f of x or the y. Okay, that's going to give you 0 for the x and some number for your y, which is going to help us find that y-intercept. Okay. We're going to plot those 4 key points, and then we're going to use what's called the axis of symmetry, okay, and we'll talk about that here in a second, but the axis of symmetry to help us get a 5th point so that we can get that symmetric U or N shape that we're looking for. So let's look at number 1. Okay, number 1, first things first, you want to determine if it opens up or down. So I'm looking at my A value. A right now is less than 0, so that's going to tell me it's going to open down. Okay, so this one's going to open down. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at our vertex. Okay, our vertex is coming from our HK. Remember, H is opposite of what you see. So I see a negative 3, which means it's going to be a positive 3 here. K is exactly what you see. So I see a positive 8, it's going to be a positive 8. Okay, so my vertex, basically my high point or my low point, and since this opens down, it's going to be that high point right there, is 3, 8. Now, we need to find those x-intercepts. To find those x-intercepts, we're going to take our equation, so negative 2, x minus 3, that should be a squared, I apologize, squared, plus 8 is going to equal 0, and we're going to solve using our square root properties. So we're going to subtract 8 from both sides first. So I'm going to be left negative 2 times x minus 3 squared equals negative 8. And then we're going to divide that negative 2 out. So I'm going to have x minus 3 squared equals a positive 4. So now our square root property tells me I'm going to get x minus 3 equals positive square root of 4, and x minus 3 equals negative square root of 4. So looking at that, I know x minus 3 is going to equal 2, and x minus 3 is going to equal negative 2. So when I solve, x equals 5, and x equals positive 1. So the 2 key points I'm going to get from there, remember, are my x-intercepts. So it's 5, 0, and 1, 0. Our last step is to find our y-intercepts. So to find our y-intercepts, we're going to plug 0 in for x. So I'm going to get 0 minus 3 squared plus 8. If I plug that entire thing into my calculator, exactly like I see it, I'm going to get negative 10. So the point that that's giving me is I plugged 0 in for x, and I got negative 10 for my y. So I have my 4 key points here. I'm going to plot those first. So I'm going to plot the vertex, 3, 8. It's going to be right here. I'm going to plot my 2 x-intercepts, so 5, 0, and 1, 0. And then my y-intercept, 0, negative 10. So I talked about the axis of symmetry. Your axis of symmetry is a symmetric line, so the line that goes through your vertex, okay, that mirrors the one side of the parabola to the other. So you're going to see, like, this key point right here is 2 away from the axis of symmetry. It's also 2 away on this side. So to mirror this point that's 3 away, I'm going to go 3 away, and I'm going to plot that point there. So now I have this symmetric U shape that goes through all those points. So there's my parabola. I always want to double check. Does it open down like I said it should? Yes, it does. So then we're good to go. Let's look at this number 2 here. Okay, so first things first, open up or down. So we're going to look at this number here, this A number. It's imaginary. We know that it's a 1. So A is greater than 0, which tells me that this is going to open up. Okay, we're going to open up. Number 2, we're going to look for our vertex. So we're going to do the opposite of H. So I see a positive 3, it's going to be a negative 3. K is exactly like you see it, negative 1. Step 3, we're going to set this equation equal to 0. Oop, sorry. Minus 1 equals 0, and we're going to solve. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides first. So I'm going to get x plus 3 equals the positive square root of 1, and x plus 3 equals the negative square root of 1. So that tells me x plus 3 equals 1, and x plus 3 equals negative 1. So x is going to equal negative 2, and x is going to equal negative 4. So those 2 points it's going to give me are negative 2, 0, and then negative 4, 0. And the last thing I need to find is that y-intercepts. Remember, we plug 0 in for x, plug it all into our calculator, and you should get 8. So the point it gives me is 0 for my x, 8 for my y. So I'm looking at those key points again. Whoop. My vertex, my 2 x-intercepts, and my y-intercept, and we're going to plot them. So my vertex first, negative 3, negative 1. My x-intercepts, negative 2, 0, negative 4, 0. And then my y-intercept, 0, 8. So I always want to find that 5th point. Now I'm going to draw on that axis of symmetry. Okay. And the one that I'm missing currently is the one here. That's 3 away here. So it's going to be 3 away here. So 1, 2, it's going to be right here. So this is going to give me this U shape. Okay. And I always want to double check, does it open up like I thought it would? It does. So then we're good to go. We're going to go ahead and skip number 3 for right now, but we're going to look at number 4. Okay, number 4, step number 1. Looking at that A value, A is greater than 0, so it's going to open up. Number 2, we're going to find our vertex. Remember, opposite of what you see here, exactly what you see here. Number 3, we're going to find our x-intercept, so we're going to take that equation, and we're going to set it equal to 0, and we're going to solve. So I'd minus 1 first. So I'm going to x minus 2 squared equals negative 1. So now that square root property tells me I'm going to get x minus 2 equal to positive square root of negative 1, and x minus 2 equal to negative square root of negative 1. So now if you think back to what we did when we did with complex numbers, that negative sign that's underneath the radical, I can basically just bring up front as an I, which then leaves me with the square root of 1, which is literally just 1. So I'm going to get x minus 2 equal to a positive I, and x minus 2 equal to a negative I. So now when I keep solving, x is going to equal 2 plus I, and x is going to equal 2 minus I. So we can still write that 2 plus I, comma 0, and 2 minus I, comma 0. Those are going to be my two x-intercepts, and we'll talk about kind of what that means here in a second. And then 4, we're going to find our y-intercept. So I'm going to plug 0 in for x, and I'm going to plug it into my calculator, and I'm going to let my calculator do all the work for me, and I'm going to get 5. So 0, 5 is that point that I'm looking for. So here is my vertex, my two x-intercepts, and my y-intercept that we're going to plot. So 2, 1, I'm going to plot that first. Now, 2 plus I can't really plot that. So we're going to go and we're going to plot 0, 5. And we're going to draw in this axis of symmetry here to find that other point here. So it's 2 away, 2 away. This opens up, so it's going to give me this shape, which is why, remember, these are my x-intercepts, these two right here. That's why they're imaginary numbers. This doesn't actually cross at any real number, so you're not going to see it happening there. You're only going to see these imaginary numbers. So on a quiz, I want to see this, but you won't be able to graph it, right? We can't graph those imaginary numbers in what we're doing right now. Okay? So you're going to go ahead and you're going to go on to the assignment for today. Keep in mind, you're going to see something kind of probably similar to this. If I give you something like -3 plus the square root of 2/3, okay, or square root of 2 over 3. This is just a number that you can plug into your calculator. You can do -3 plus the square root of 2 over 3. Put this in parentheses, okay? When you do that, it's just going to give you a decimal point, and that's okay. That is a number you can graph. That is a real number that can be crossing the x-axis. This, anytime you have an I with it, you won't be able to. But this, you can plug into your calculator and get a decimal point so that you can find the point where they cross that x-axis, okay? So on the assignment, you're going to have 4 of them that are kind of similar to this, and then just a couple asking for you to find only the vertex, so only doing this step 2 here. So just give me that vertex, and then a couple of review problems. If you have any questions, reach out to me via Schoology. I'm here to support.